Joshua Curtis, and welcome to my channel, Joshua Curtis 101. If you look at my couple videos on this channel, you'll realize I am a Yu-Gi-Oh player. And right now, the Yu-Gi-Oh player base is asking for an update on the Forbidden and Limited list. For other card games, they would know this as the banned list. Every time there has been discourse around a new list needing to be dropped, you'll hear a lot of players complaining and contemplating leaving the game entirely. In this video, I'm trying to explore some of the main reasons I hear of why people are leaving and giving my take on those reasons. This is going to be a relatively deep dive into a very shallow pool, and it's just going to be a thoughts on about anywhere from 2 to 5 takes, depending on your definition of what a take is. So let's strap in and get right on to it. Number 1, the game isn't fun right now. This is where I said it could be anywhere from 2 to 5, because the game not being fun right now breaks down into many subcategories. I'm just going to cover like 3 of those subcategories, and just basically give my basic takes on them. As of right now, as of recording this, which it is April 11th, people, like I said in the intro, have been clamoring for a new update on the Forbidden and Limited list, feeling that the current state of Yu-Gi-Oh! Isn't necessarily bad, just stale and needing a shakeup. This reason is somewhat reasonable. If you're not having fun with the game, then just don't play the game. And that I can get behind every day of the week. Maybe you just like previous formats, or the cards that are going to be soon to release are just what you're waiting for because the cards now are not doing it for you. Or like I said, that it's stale and you're just tired of it. Or it could be even more simple. You're just burnt out of the game. And I can pretty much get behind any of those reasons. Most of the time, these are temporary leaves from the game. I don't like the current format, or the new set has cards that I like, so I'm just going to take a step back from going to locals, going to regionals, going to YCSs, things such as, for a few months until I get back into the game. But it can turn into more permanent, and I understand. Another thing is that the game isn't the game you fell in love with anymore. Again, this is another valid reason. A lot of Yu-Gi-Tubers have done this. Primarily the 2 people that are in my zeitgeist that I know is Simo and Nimnim. They don't like modern Yu-Gi-Oh! As Simo categorically calls it Yu-Gi-Oh! 2 that he doesn't like. They don't leave the game entirely, though. They just go back and play the formats that they love. And that's what I want players to do, and what I think every player should want them to do. Play what they love. And the final category of this, subcategory, I should say, of this category, is the decks in the game are not fun to play. This is where you see I have a first problem with this. No one is making you play decks that you don't want to play. Right now, the top decks are still Draco Tail variants, still Yummy variants, VSK9, and Radiant Typhoon variants. If you don't have fun playing those, you don't have to play those. And then, but what about playing against those decks? Playing against them are not fun. Well, it can be. The idea of playing against them not being fun stems from the fact that your deck has not a favorable matchup or gets hosed in those matchups. But that isn't necessarily true. All decks in Yu-Gi-Oh! And pretty much across all card games play on a certain axis, and the top decks of every card game play on their axis either better or more consistent than others, which in turn makes them better. That doesn't mean that your deck cannot compete or even outplay them. My genuine thought on playing competitively is If you know your deck better than your opponent knows theirs, you'll win 80% of the time. As of recording this, if we look at one of the most recent regionals, Columbus, Ohio, the first place deck list was Mitsu Azamina. Second place was a Hecahan's Chimera. And 8th place was Rescue Ace. All three of those decks weren't necessarily saw in the metagame, especially the Hecahan's Chimera. And they are generally looked at as head and shoulders below every other deck. But this regional proved they can compete and outcompeted a lot of the decks. So even if you like your pet decks, even if you say they can't compete with the current metagame, well, the most recent regional proves you can compete. It is 80% of the time. If you know your deck better than your opponents, you win. And that kind of wraps up my takes on, like, not loving the game currently. As I said, I'm not trying to dive deep into a lot of things. It's just very shallow takes. But another take I really wanted to go on is the one that I have the most problem with. This is the cards don't retain their values like other card games. This criticism is one I've heard multiple times, and I can't stress this enough. It infuriates me the most. This criticism stems from Konami's reprint policy, and if you're unaware of that policy, it's generally high-value cards that are printed will be reprinted at least one time in the given year. You can look at one of the most expensive cards in recent memory was Fiendsmith Engraver. It was once a $100 card at the lowest rarity, which now, about a year and a half later of it being released, I believe, 2 years, almost 2 years being released, I should say, it has dropped down to less than $1. That, to a lot of people say, is bad. I look at it like, that's great. I can't disagree more with that sentiment. Their sentiment stems from they may have bought the card on the secondary market or pulled it. And in a few months, the investment is worth nothing, pretty much. The investment in these expensive cards are supposed to be for being competitive at that current moment, for the months between the cards getting reprinted. At the time when Engraver was at $100, there was no reprint. It didn't see reprint until around 8 months after it was released. Within that 8-month period, it was one of the best, if not the best card in the game. And it still is one of the best cards in the game. And now most players have that. I think having a liberal reprint policy is great for Yu-Gi-Oh! It means that most players are able to toy around with the deck, are able to play with the deck at their locals, at their regionals, at their YCSs, at anything if they are willing to wait. Yes, would the format have evolved? And yes, could the strategies now be pushed to a different tier and kind of phased out of the metagame? Sure, they could be, but that doesn't mean that they are bad. Like I said, with Engraver, you are still seeing it in a lot of lists that are topping primarily with the magnets right now. Yu-Gi-Oh! To me has never been a collector card game, unlike Magic and unlike Pokemon where they have collectible cards. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is meant to be played. It's the most playable out of all the card games. Like I said, I could talk even more on that topic. This is the one that I disagree most vehemently against. But, like I said, this is just a brief dive into the shallow end of this pool. And they're just some of my few very select observations. Hopefully you enjoyed this quick rant. leave a comment down below if you agree or disagree with any points I made in this video, and also leave a like or dislike, and suggestions on what you would see, what you would like to see next on this channel. So, like always, thanks and peace and chicken grease.